Oh, it started recording. I apologize.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Donovan.
Thank you.
Okay, so now moving on to school board liaison communications.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I didn't read the email well enough. I would have been there in person, but Zoom works, so I'll do my best to kind of relay this information from here. So a couple things are definitely happening at the school board, so I'll go on those in just a moment. But one thing that I guess for the Youth Commission in particular, you all had a holiday not too long ago and had the day off, but your teachers were on school site. And sometimes I think it's, we're not aware as to what they're doing during that time. So I thought I'd share that a little bit. So the district started the day for the middle school and high school. So most of you are high schoolers here with a focused experience from the Anti-Defamation League. They worked on the teachers on anti-bias issues. So this is a training that is funded by SPEF, which is a great opportunity for teachers to kind of have this work. They focused on implicit and explicit bias, and they spent a time sort of workshopping, and they worked on scenarios and sort of worked in collaborative group work and had conversations that were really enlightening. So while you all had a day, they kind of really spent time on that. And then the second half, the afternoon, was actually spent on an issue I think we've all been dealing with in this past year, which is teacher self-care. So just as we want all of you as students and young people to really think about your own self, right? Kind of that oxygen mask scenario, which is, you know, give yourself oxygen before you look at others. We want our teachers to do the same, make sure that they're healthy and well and managing their stress so that they can serve you in the best way possible. So that's how that day was spent. So I thought I'd share that. On the school board end, we did sadly lose one of our school board members. Our loss is Glendale's gain. So Dr. Abajian will be moving to Glendale, and as such will have to give up her position on the school board. And so what we will be doing is we looked at two scenarios that were available to us. The first was to go with an election, but that's a very costly process because it would have to be a special election in which solely the school board candidate would be on the ballot, and we would have to foot that cost. So it didn't really make sense for us. So instead, we opted for the other possibility, which is for members of the community who are eligible to submit applications for this seat. We received 11 applications, 9 of which were complete. And so we will be interviewing all 9 applicants and then making a decision. So that will allow us to have a new school board member. That individual will serve the term until November, at which time there'll be an election for 4 school board member seats. So this will be kind of an interesting time. You'll have 4 seats on the school board up for election. And then that seat, whatever that seat is, will be then a shorter term, because it'll just fulfill the remainder of that vacancy and then get back on cycle. So we'll go back to a 3-seat, 2-seat cycle versus a 4 and 1. So that'll be, you know, a little bit healthier, a little bit more normal, but it'll be an interesting November. The other thing that's pretty busy for us right now and is also part of the same conversation is, just like the city, we are going through a districting process. And so we will no longer be an at-large school board election. So in the past, as in many elections, we were at large, which meant the entire city was open, everyone would vote, and the highest vote getters would occupy those seats. Didn't matter where they lived, didn't matter who was voting, it was just the highest vote counts in total. Now we will, similar to city council, be by district. So this is an in-depth process in which we'll really have to look at demographics and what might be possible for the school district. Our special considerations as a unified school district will be taken into consideration, as well as, of course, the goals of the Voting Rights Act, which is causing us to go through this process. So the maps will be presented soon to us, and then we'll have 2 public hearings, one in December, the next one in January, and that will allow feedback of the community to give input on those maps, and then the board will adopt a map following that. I think it's January 11th. Is that final public hearing, and then we'll adopt a new map, which will be in play for November. So not only will we have 4 seats, but those 4 seats will have to be from 4 distinct regions of the city. So that'll be an exciting November. But yeah, it's busy on the school board, but that's kind of our update. I hope it's enough for you all, and look forward to all the work that you're doing.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Rob. Now moving on to commissioner communications, if any commissioners have anything to say. Okay, if not, then we can move on to staff liaison communications.
None that we've received. We'll go over spectacular a little later.
Okay, cool, thank you. And then moving on to NREC liaison communications, I don't have anything to report right now, so I guess we can look at the meeting minutes
Should be
from last
September.
time, I think. It's
September.
for September 27th meeting minutes, so we can just look over those. All right, I move to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ooh, second, sorry.
I think it was Sadie Abelson.
Oh, yeah, Sadie Abelson.
All right, perfect. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it looks like the September 27th minutes were approved. So now moving on to the discussion and approval on projects from the 2021 work plan. We can talk about different projects and also the spectacular event as well.
Yeah, so I removed the two different items that we discussed last time. So if there's any items that you guys would like to add on there, what's the goal with it, the timeline and who, and then we can also just talk about the designated lead people for each of them. I'm open to all suggestions. So do we have anyone that brought any ideas on items that they are looking to as projects for this coming school year?
I have a quick question of for clarification.
Go ahead.
So the two that are currently on the work plan from the agenda that you sent us, those are on our work plan, right? Like those aren't the ones you're gonna take out.
I think, yeah, those were ones that we discussed last time that we were still okay with. If we want to remove them and put other ideas, I'm open to that as well. It was just, I think the teacher one, and they can't remember the other one, but we had discussed that we could take those out and come up with new ones. But again, if we want to keep, if we don't want to do spread tier and do something different, we can do that as well.
Yeah, sounds good. I personally like the spread tier program. I think that that's something we can definitely continue this year, since I think that it will still be impactful now, even as things are opening back up. So I can volunteer for that. Does anyone have any ideas for any new things they would like to add to the work plan?
Do we maybe want to do something like holiday related, like for like December? Like, I don't know, like we could like do something for like the kids in the area or like something like that. If there's something that we don't already do, but like maybe something directed in that area.
Yeah, I think we normally do breakfast with Santa. Is that still happening this year?
Yep, we'll
Okay.
still be having breakfast with Santa. That'll be on Saturday, December 11th. So we'll ask for, again, just like our spectacular and walk bike to school, for youth commissioners to be out there and help out with the different activities that we have planned out. But if there's something else in addition that you guys want to add as a youth program.
Like what entails like the breakfast thing?
So Breakfast with Santa, it's a ticketed event. So families purchase tickets to attend. We serve a breakfast. We'll have, this year it's kind of like a gingerbread theme. So we'll have gingerbread houses and cookies to decorate. We'll have Santa there. And so families can take pictures with Santa. And we'll have music. Santa typically will read a story. So the kids will come out on the floor at the War Memorial and enjoy story time. And it's just really a time for families to hang out together, take pictures with Santa, have some breakfast. It's about a 2.5 hour event.
Mhm. Do you think we can like add anything to that, like, and really do like making presents for them or like something like that?
Presents, so really, I mean, it's kind of hard just because it's, we have a lot of different families from NRA. We don't necessarily know. We know how many people are coming, but we don't know how many kids. I think something that might be helpful is if we did like a promotion for Santa letters and have kids bring in their letters to Santa, and then youth commissioners can maybe respond to them
Yeah, that's
as
good.
Santa, and we can mail them back to the families who send in. We can always, put something on either our flyer or as we promote it, to bring in your letters in a self-stamped letter envelope. And then we've done that in the past in a different organization where families bring that self-stamped addressed envelope, and then youth commissioners or staff can respond to them, and we have like a template that we can use and respond that way.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I was wondering, I know last year we did a drive for unhoused people and we delivered it to Union Station. I think we could do something similar, but like holiday themed, and maybe to like the children's hospitals. I don't know if that was kind of what you were thinking about.
Oh yeah, that's good. We could do that with like the service hours too. Like that can like go with both.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so is that something that we've done in the past?
Well, like in the spring, we did like the care package project. So
I
that was
see.
like similar, but this would be like more like targeted towards like hospitals and like children. And so it'd probably be like less like hygiene products and things like that, and more like care stuff.
I also have a completely like separate idea. So for school, so I'm the health and wellness officer at South Pass, and we're kind of working on planning a health fair for students like at South Pass High School. And I think that would be kind of interesting to like collaborate with the city, like through the youth commission, to like get like city like health programs there to the health fair. It'll probably be in like January, so like I could like kind of lead that project and just kind of like loop you guys in, and like if you have any ideas or any like city programs or city like health organizations that we want to like include in the health fair, we could all like work to like get them there, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily like a youth commission project, but like I'll definitely like need your all's like help with that if that's something that you guys are interested in.
And this event is held at the school?
Yes, it will be. Yeah, the high school.
So would you need help more of securing like vendors or working the event?
Probably like it's not necessarily like vendors, but like people who are like there at the event. So like examples. So like we're trying to get the YMCA there, like Planned Parenthood, like other like kind of community health organizations in the area. And we could probably like do a youth commission like table too, which would be kind of interesting. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's like still like in the works for sure, but
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely add that, and the more information you get on that, you can share back with us, and we can add in, and I'll add you as our lead person for that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Does anyone have any other ideas?
Sadie, what's kind of your what's the idea behind having this health fair over at the high school? Like, what are you guys looking to just provide information to students?
Yeah, it's like information and just knowing like providing students with the resources to like go and like kind of be in charge of their health and healthcare. So if we're like getting all these community organizations here at one place, like they can learn like what's in the community really like there for them and what they can utilize like as youth in South Pass, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, another thing is, I think it was taken off like the virtual community platform. I don't know, maybe we could, I don't know if we discussed removing that last time. I'm looking at the agenda meeting minutes again. And I think actually it was, we were talking about removing spread cheer and the teacher appreciation, but
Okay,
I think that the virtual community platform would still be beneficial. We could have presentations. I know Breathe Free is here today, so thank you so much for coming, but maybe we could have things like that, presenters like Breathe Free, or we had the Suicide Foundation last year come and talk. So I think that that could still be something we could consider.
okay.
Okay, does anyone else have any other suggestions? If not, should we move to the presentation? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, let me, sorry. And then just our spectacular event that's coming up, that's this Friday at Orange Grove Park. So I know some of you have already emailed saying that you are available. Was there anyone else that might be available to help assist with the, we'll have different activities and game booths that we need help with. So if you hadn't already responded and you're available, I can go ahead and take your name down.
What are the hours again?
So the event is from 5:30 to 8. We ask for, if you have some time either before or the whole event or after. We're always in need of either helping with the setup during the event or again at the end of the event for cleanup. So some of you emailed saying that you are available for 2 hours and gave me timeframes, which is fine. So anything that you're available to work, I can use your help.
I will email you, just like, I'll check my schedule and then I'll email.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Sadie.
I think I initially wasn't available, but I'm now available. I can be there from 5 to 8:30.
Thank you, Camille. Okay, now you're good.
Okay, okay, so now we have a presentation from the Wellness Center. So thank you so much for being here, and we're excited to hear from you about your presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliana. Juliana, for the PowerPoint, do you want us to share our screen or?
Yeah, for sure. That sounds good.
Okay, wonderful. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. I
Okay.
don't know if it's.
Someone might need to help me do this. How do I?
In the meantime, I'll introduce myself. So good evening, everyone. My name is Cristina Cardenas. I am a senior program manager with LAC USC Medical Center Foundation. And tonight we're here to speak about the Breathe Free South Pasadena Coalition and the Breathe Free South Pasadena Youth Coalition. And I'm here with my colleagues, Ana Barajas, who's our youth coordinator, as well as we have Priyanka Saxena and Karine Van Groningen, who are medical doctors with LACSC, and they're here tonight. They're part of our coalition and also part of our efforts at the Wellness Center, which we'll talk about. Let's see, I don't know. Oh, it's letting me see a share now. It worked.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, wonderful, great. And Juliana, just to confirm, how much time do we have? I just want to make sure I don't.
I think our meeting ends in like 35 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Sound okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so our presentation this evening has to do with learning a little bit about our focus has been flavored tobacco, and really talking a lot about how lifelong addictions often start out sweet. Before we start, I just want to share a little bit of background about who we are. So we are LACUSC Medical Center Foundation. We are working in collaboration with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. It's the Tobacco Control and Prevention Program. We are this program is the largest local lead agency in California. It implements a countywide program to reduce youth access to tobacco products and reduce exposure to secondhand smoke, increase access to smoking cessation resources, as well as working locally to improve educational resources and education. We at LACUSC Medical Center Foundation, in 2019, we became a grantee of this fund and have been working in South Pasadena for the last almost 3 years. Our coalition's vision is to improve healthy breathing environments and healthy futures of South Pasadena youth and families by reducing youth access to flavored tobacco and vaping affiliated products, while increasing other resources such as cessation, mental health, and vaping education. We wanted to share that we have been working locally to collect a lot of data. We really wanted to start out by understanding what is the impact of youth vaping. Is it an issue in the city of South Pasadena? So what we did is we worked closely with the Chamber of Commerce and the Teen Center, and we attended all summer concerts. We attended basically any public event over the last 2 years, and prior to COVID, of course, in person, and then most recently back in person at the farmers markets. And we've collected surveys to understand public opinions around vaping. And we've also conducted educational workshops within the South Pasadena Unified School District, with also in partnership with the South Pasadena Parent Teacher Association. And we've also been able to visit all the stores that sell tobacco in South Pasadena and assess if it is easy for youth to access those products. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the science behind flavored tobacco, some of the research that we've learned. This process has really allowed all of us to really learn about how this issue is very there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of environmental factors that have to do with tobacco and the impact of tobacco. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what we've found through some of the research. We've also learned a lot of model programs and practices that we have been fortunate to learn from other cities that have made really big strides in this issue. And we've also been able to communicate this information not only with our coalition, but we've also been able to express this information with city staff. So we do have some updates that we wanted to share about how this campaign is going and where we're going. We also have been fortunate to hire youth coordinators. So Anna, who's on the call, has been coordinating endless meetings with teens, with teen coordinators, we've been working very closely with the South Pasadena High School Peer Mediator Group, working closely with Mr. Speck, the vice principal at South Pasadena High School, to ensure that the teens and all the youth that have been involved really feel that this campaign is going in the direction that they'd like to see it. And so we're just really pleased about that participation, even through COVID, even through Zoom. It's been tough, but everyone's been very committed to the process. Okay, so a little bit about the science. So as you all know, there are, the brain function is very, very complex in terms of what, how the brain forms, how it functions. And one of the biggest things that we've been able to talk to epidemiologists and physicians, and I have a couple on the call here that can also attest to, is that a lot of the families and youth that we've talked to really didn't realize that brain development is an ongoing thing that doesn't stop, and it continues on into your late 20s, well into like 10 years after graduation. And a lot of the students that are vaping in high school don't realize that the kind of irreversible damage that they are doing to their brain development that is in its prime, at the age of 15, 16, 17. And so what we've learned is that the use of vaping products creates these imbalances in the brain. It affects the way that our brains naturally produce substances such as dopamine and the way that, neurotransmitters are acting, and it replicates those natural processes so that the mind basically becomes addicted. And we have learned that this process creates addiction, essentially. And so we have been able to, talk to, leading experts that have shared with us some of the triggers, some of the consequences of, behavior following addiction. And it's a very complex process, because addiction is something that, people are trying to, for centuries, people have been trying to figure out the, how to deal with addiction. And I think for all of us that have been working on this, we've been, talking to youth and parents, and a lot of parents, really, when it comes to vaping, they don't think to the point of addiction. They don't really have those conversations with their kids. So we definitely want to, kind of raise that tonight, because one of the things that we've learned in South Pasadena, that is, while there are a lot of resources available to families related to understanding addiction, is that they're not readily, a lot of people don't know where to find this information, how to access information. So we definitely wanted to share that. And of course, some of the physical consequences. So some of the effects of nicotine are heart beating faster. So your body kind of going into a fight or flight response as a result of the use of the product. Trouble breathing, damage to the lungs, increased acid reflux. This is just a small list of kind of some of the major impacts. And we also have found that 21% of high school students in the US report using an e-cigarette product in the past 30 days. And this is data collected in 2019. 40% of students who use vape products use them because they taste good. Only 10% use them in an attempt to quit smoking. These are other statistics that we found very alarming, that we've shared with students across the district, is that 80% of US middle and high school students who have ever used tobacco started with a flavored product. 82% of current e-cigarette users have used a flavored e-cigarette. Now, this one is very surprising to us, because basically what we've learned is that within a year, so any students that vape within a year, the prevalence of their using a regular, just regular tobacco product is increased. 74% of current cigar users have used a flavored cigar. And then 79% of current hookah users have used a flavored hookah. So we really have been focusing really on the flavored tobacco element. We've also been able to speak to counselors, teachers, really to kind of understand the effects on education and kind of what are some of the long-term performance disruptions, disciplinary, decreased student focus, constant disruptions, and then also just the social aspects of it. So the peer pressure, the effects of working memory and attention span. So kind of all those short-term and long-term impacts. And a little later, I'm going to have, we have one of our professionals that we have been working with speak to a little more about the science of kind of that developmental impact. And these are just short kind of, just for time's sake, some short programs that we found for best practices. So definitely developing programs to educate students on the danger of vapes and Juuls. We've been working primarily with the high school, and what we learned so far is that there's a program called Peer Mediators that have been looking at using a peer-to-peer approach. So having students who are trained on kind of all the dangers and consequences of vaping, to be able to share that information with students, be able to share information and resources in that kind of more of a personal approach. And so that's something that all the students we've talked to have preferred to do, would like, think as more effective strategy for working with students. Also training staff to recognize the use of vapes and Juuls at school, and then providing information to parents about the devices and existing policies at school. Awareness and responsibility. They definitely feel that students themselves organizing awareness campaigns and programs, local programs to combat the epidemic has been something that the students that we've been working with have felt best to start with. And the students that we worked with in the peer mediators, they actually prepared, and we'd love to invite them back, but they've actually prepared a survey that they administered to students as well to find out, what are students' perspectives about vaping? How is the school addressing it? What do they feel about some of the policies such as suspension? What do they feel like is kind of missing from that equation? Like, is there sufficient resources for mental health, for counseling, for things that could help you if you are in a stressful place, and are there supports for parents and students to kind of prevent them from even initiating vaping in the first place? So with that, I don't know if Judith is on the line. Let me see if I can, there's Judith. So I'd love to introduce Judy Harris, who's a licensed clinical social worker. We have had the pleasure of having Judith on our coalition, and her perspective, I think for me, being able to understand her perspective as a professional working primarily with family and youth in a clinical setting has been really helpful to understand for her the root causes, and really kind of spending time and resources and attention to some of the mental health components. So I'm going to turn over to Judith to talk to us a little bit about that. And so thank you. And then we'll save questions for the end if there's any specific questions, but this again is just an overview. We do have a full presentations that we are doing, that we've done with students, and we'd love to see how we can work, as Juliana said, more closely with the Youth Commission to come to a health fair, be able to provide very specific resources at a table. We'd love to find more opportunities to do that as we continue our campaign. So I will turn it over to Judith. And Judith, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and I will give you the floor.
I am unmuted. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Christina. My name is Judith M. Harris, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have been part of the South Pasadena community for over 30 years. I have practiced here. I am a community member. I raised a child here, and my 28-year-old son is matriculated through all levels of South Pasadena schools. I have a private psychotherapy practice, and I'm also an organizational consultant. My background is that I have 2 master's degrees, one in clinical social work and a license as a licensed mental health professional in clinical social work. And I have a master's in nonprofit business management and org studies. So one of the other things I do is organizational consulting and something called employee assistance consulting under the umbrella of human resources in companies and organizations that is also focused on health and wellness, mental health and wellness on the workplace and in organizations. And in both areas of my practice, an issue that is very important is that of not just mental health, but addiction and substance use disorder of mental health. Because not only are individuals healthier, but organizations are healthier if, in each case, issues of substance use and addiction are addressed. And often we do in mental health call that as the tip of the iceberg. In other words, it's the top situation that must be addressed before any other mental health issues can be addressed. So I have had to, over many years, take many courses And it happens that starting in 2019, I have taken a concentration of courses through UCLA School of Public Health, the University of San Francisco, and the State of California Department of Public Health on smoking cessation. And that is smoking of all materials, combustible materials, smoking tobacco combustibly, and also vaping, all kinds of vaping materials, not just nicotine, but of course, all kinds of drugs, what is now commonly called weed, marijuana, and other drugs as well. So what we know actually is that the adolescent brain is a developing brain. So I want to go over a little bit, very simplistically, if you will, about what happens to children as they matriculate into the teenage years. And at about age 12, all of us have what's called adult cognition. In other words, at age 12, we can think like adults. But because we're not mature, we don't necessarily act like adults. We have to have those maturing years till around 25 to be able to fully develop in our brains and have adult capacity. But in terms of intellectual abilities, starting at age 12, we all tend to have adult brains. And what happens is that in order to learn a lot between the period of about 12 and 25, our brains start having cells come out, and it's called brain exuberance. So all these cells pop out in our brains, but also our prefrontal lobe, which has to do with executive functioning, looking at the big picture, planning, knowing and looking at consequences. Some major functions go on in the prefrontal lobe. That starts going away over time, and it actually goes away more the older a teen grows into adolescence. So what can be rather scary is that by the time somebody's 18 and over, their prefrontal lobe isn't functioning well anymore. And we do know that most addictions do take hold during the middle school and high school years. They start at those times. And there are some really deleterious, dangerous effects on the brain development, because the development of all of these parts of the brain get interrupted through the use of these chemicals. And we do know that vaping is a lot more dangerous, as Christina has just gone over. It's a lot more dangerous because of the concentration of the chemicals that are delivered through the mechanisms of vaping. And they really impact the way the brain is developing and the developing body. We also know that with vaping, there are metals in the vaping process and materials, and metals can get into the lungs and can cause death. So it is extremely unhealthy from a mental health point of view to use these materials while the brain is developing, and can cause serious mental health problems, depression, anxiety, explosive temper disorder, which is about having explosive rages, outbursts of rages. And maybe some of you have seen some of the television commercials that are produced by public health departments that show teenagers going into rages at their parents uncontrollably. But these chemicals also affect a part of the brain called the amygdala, which regulates our emotions. So if development is being interrupted, there can be problems for somebody's life because of this. And so it really is very dangerous. Are there any questions or thoughts, or anybody want to comment?
And also we can, at the end too, we have time for comments. So if anyone has comments for Judith, we can also save those. Or if you want to type them in the chat, or if they come up later, we can always work with Juliana and kind of answer any questions or share any resources in the future. But thank you so much, Judith. And I know one of the things that that really struck me is that Judith actually meets with patients at the park and has been able to see in South Pasadena kind of the usage of products, because she sees them, you know, in the morning. She sees them at the park, the products that are disposed of, the vape products, and the excessive amount of products that she's herself had to clean up in the park. And so I know, Judith, that perspective is really helpful, because I think in the conversations that we've had with like council members and local stakeholders who maybe don't go to the park and see kind of, you know, what's truly being, where these products are being used. They're being used at the parks, and they are being used by students that are underage. And so that to me was really helpful, Judith, to that perspective that you shared on kind of the, you know, the remnants of vaping in South Pasadena.
Well, I will comment on that because that is true. I have been meeting in the parks since about July of 2020, when a number of my private practice patients were sinking doing telehealth. And I know that, and we know from research that meeting in person is preferential to meeting in any other way. It's true of any kind of educative process, including going to school, that it's people retain more and do better when they're in person, in school or in therapy and counseling. So I have my clients sign releases as they would with telehealth, that they know it outdoor meetings are not as confidential, and as long as they're agreeable, we have found some secluded places. So one of the secluded places that I know a lot of the youth know about, and that apparently has been used for about 30 years, is the patio in back of the Scout House. And if you can think about having a counseling session in a secluded area, that is about one of the most secluded areas in the park.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's one of the most secluded areas where people can use and drink and have, there's all kinds of paraphernalia left, beer cans, alcohol bottles, vaping materials, roofies, which are the ends of filtered cigarettes where some of the tobacco has been taken out and most likely weed has been put in, pipes, broken pipes, marijuana gummies, all kinds of edibles from marijuana. And also there's graffiti that's left on the walls and on the tables. There's a lot of defacement of the property, all kinds of wrappers, food, candy. It's just left all over the place. And also there's also, and I will say this, there's sexual activity going on there, because I see remnants of birth control there as well. So I have called the police many times. I've called Parks and Recreation. I've talked to city council people, and it really needs to be addressed. And I'm hoping that through this committee and this entity, as well as maybe through the high school, the youth commission, and maybe with some onboarding of the high school principal and counselors, there can be a project where maybe for community service hours, there's a group that can be educating and also going out into the parks and making sure that peers are respecting the park. So it's one way to start to address vaping, using of all kinds in our community, as well as respect for our public places in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Judith. And definitely, I think some of the ideas that have been generated have included, you know, working with specifically on, you know, youth oriented facilities, parks, to really address, you know, usage at those spaces. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but we did have the opportunity to speak with the Public Safety Commission. So this commission meets to discuss everything related to safety, wellness, public safety. And so, you know, that I know Judith submitted public comments related to this issue and the issue at the park. So we definitely, through this campaign, plan to speak to all the, right commissions that could address some of these issues at the parks. But I think definitely the idea to partner with all of you is something that we would love to do, as Judith mentioned, to maybe create new opportunities. I know you all are creating your platform for the year. So if there's anything related to parks and safety, and that's something that I think we definitely would be available to support. So thank you, Judith. I'm gonna just I know we have a little bit of time left, but I'm just gonna share a few resources that we wanted to share with you all with regards to what we learned in South Pasadena and what we did with this information. So we did have the pleasure of meeting, as I mentioned, with the South Pasadena Public Safety Commission. And some of the information that we shared with them was what I had mentioned. So we collected public opinion surveys. And this is what's called an infographic. So this is like a really easy and nice way to share information when you have a group like such as city council or a commission that you want to share information with. It makes kind of the data very kind of easy on the eye. And basically one of the biggest things that we wanted to share with this Public Safety Commission is that 2 and 3 residents, and these are residents over 18. So this, you had to be a registered or resident of South Pasadena over the age of 18 and over. And 2 and 3 support a law that prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco. So there's a great interest in South Pasadena related to how do we regulate some of these retailers that, are selling products that we know are completely damaging to brain development and youth development. And so 90% of residents support restricting the sale of tobacco products, which that includes, of those products in your schools, playgrounds, parks, and other youth-friendly areas. We also discovered that 85% support a licensing fee, which South Pasadena currently has. So if you sell tobacco in South Pasadena, you have to have a licensing fee. You have to have a license and pay a fee. 67% of residents feel that it's easy for youth to buy tobacco products in their community. And 95% support a law to revoke someone's license if they repeatedly violate the law. So we found that in South Pasadena, there were stores that were willing to sell flavored tobacco vape products to underage staff. So we had staff that were trained that went into stores. And so we did find a lot of residents that felt that, okay, if that's happening, then stores should lose their license if they're selling to minors. And then we have a few other statistics here that I won't go into for sake of time, but we do know that there are policies that other cities have done, and there's overwhelming support from South Pass residents to look into new strategies. So we definitely want to share this with teens because we want to understand if this is something that you all would all support as well, and how you feel about the way this information should be shared with peers and with the community. So I'll go to the next slide. So we found that 1 in 5 stores in South Pasadena were willing to sell flavored tobacco to young adults. And so Anna, who's on the call, she was actually one of the young adults that was trained. I believe she was 20 at the time that she went out to the stores, and you have to be 21 to purchase tobacco. So she was underage. And so there's roughly, I believe there's 10 or 11 stores in South Pasadena. And what we learned was that 80% of youth who have ever used a tobacco product reported that their first product was flavored. So we've been sharing this information as well. And the last thing we wanted to share is that there is other projects that we've been able to do in other cities to be able to tell the story. I think that's one of the biggest thing. One of the biggest reasons why we're here tonight is because we're really trying to collect stories. We're really trying to be able to support the city and city staff in their effort. City staff that we've worked with, they're very interested in looking at regulating flavored tobacco and even tobacco. And so what they need is they need stories. They need residents, especially youth, that can tell their story and say, this is something that I support. This is something that I'd like to see changed in my city. So this is an example of what we call Photovoice. And Photovoice basically allows a student to capture what they see in their environment and provide a sort of description of what they see. So if you see on this photo on the right, they titled it All That I See. And the student here describes what they see kind of walking into a 7-Eleven. You know, they see this marketing like kind of at foot level. So it's like it's on the door as you're walking in. So there's this like saturation of this marketing of these products. And so the student says that they would like to see these ads eliminated, that, you know, it's something that's, you know, really invasive. So just to conclude, I know we're at time, but we did want to share with you that we are collecting ideas, we're collecting stories. We'd love to invite you all to join us as we continue this, you know, this really progressive effort in South Pasadena. We have learned so much from other cities, other youth, and that we've been really fortunate that we have amongst city council, we have received we have a strong interest in the idea of a tobacco retail ordinance, looking at prohibiting the sale of all tobacco products. That would include cigarettes, flavored tobacco, hookah, menthol, everything, which is really progressive because only 2 other cities have done this, City of Manhattan Beach and Beverly Hills. So if South Pasadena did this, they would be the 3rd city to do this. And so it's very progressive. And so we were very fortunate to attend the Public Safety Commission on October 18th. And we basically presented the draft policy and a staff report to kind of explain a little bit about the rationale and why the chief of police and police department is really kind of spearheading the effort. And so we did receive some public comments from youth commission members. And so we submitted that. And so we're going to be going back. There were some edits that were made to the draft policy, and it'll be coming back to the Public Safety Commission. So we'll definitely keep this group informed about how that goes. But eventually this policy will go to City Council, and they're thinking possibly December. So we'd love to find an opportunity to collect additional stories and comments and invite you all to those public meetings. And they're all, they're in person, and they're early in the day, at least the commission meetings, but the city council meetings are later in the evening. So those could be something that if you're interested in participating, you could participate through Zoom. So we'll definitely share that information with all of you. We're also looking to recruit youth volunteers for our outreach at the farmers market in November and December. So we have resource tables, and we're basically collecting petition surveys so you can sign in support of this tobacco retail ban in South Pasadena. So we'd love to invite any students that are interested in community service hours to join us. And then we also are going to be attending Electrify Your Lawn event on November 6th that we're also looking for volunteers. And also, of course, to invite any students interested in joining the youth commission, so that the next meeting orientation will be October 29th. It'll be this Thursday, and we're doing a virtual outreach night. So we're going to have loteria. It's going to be this really fun game. We're going to have some really fun baking, Halloween baking ideas, just like really fun kind of information. And then also we're going to kind of give you a little more orientation about the Youth Coalition. So if you're interested, it's on Zoom. So we'll definitely send the Zoom link and info. I don't know if Anna, if you want to put it in the chat, but if you want to join by Zoom, it is at 6 p.m. Thursday, October 29th. So with that, I think we're at time, but I just want to thank Juliana for inviting us, for your partnership in this effort. And yeah, we've made a lot of strides in the last 3 years. We were originally focusing on kind of flavored tobacco, and it's now looking like all tobacco. So it's really, really exciting. And we definitely wanted to kind of invite you all to join, and in those spaces be able to, if there's any additional information or any ideas you have, especially for communicating this information to other youth in the community. I think you all are doing such an amazing job with your efforts to be involved in the community, but also to share information through newsletters and social media and publications. So if we can also join and support with any information, we would really appreciate that, reaching out to other youth in the community. So with that, thank you for your time. And if you look in the chat, then please join us. Let's see. And I believe Karine has placed some information in the chat, and then Anna puts information in the chat for to join us. So the registration link is there. Ana Barra has listed that, so you can click on that. And then I don't know, I'm actually gonna allow Karina, if you want to say anything about the information you placed in the chat, and then thank you so much for your time. Sorry we went a little over.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm a pediatrician within LA County. I'm with the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we're working very closely with Christina on this tobacco ban. And so I just posted our professional societies, recommendation for this ordinance. And I can put my contact information also in the chat if you want to speak with any pediatricians. Thanks so much.
Christina? Hi, it's Judy Harris.
Hello, hi, Judy.
I just wanted everyone to know I put my contact information in the chat. And so if anybody is interested in discussing getting the community service project I mentioned off the ground, or any other projects to abate the smoking using vaping, and to really address taking care of our public property in the city, I would be more than happy to connect with anyone else who's interested, especially the youth and high school students.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Judith. So if there's any opportunities, Juliana, as I'm thinking of the health fair, if there's sort of any opportunities for us to provide, any information, and potentially, if there's an opportunity for Q&A, or kind of some what's the word? Just more, building of resources for the information that you're kind of the network you're forming for your youth commission, for your newsletter. I know you are all working on, new strategies for communication. So if there's anything that we can connect with, whether it be mental health, resources for getting involved, being part of, policy development, we'd love to share that and be connected to that process.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So thank you. That's all for us. Thank you so much. And all our emails and our Instagram page are on this last slide. So please feel free to save that information. And I think the best would be the Instagram. That's kind of where we post our meeting flyers, sort of any information that any new information that we posted would be on the Instagram. So please join us. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to present to us, and we'll definitely keep you updated with any new opportunities or anything like that. So thank you so much for presenting today, and also to all the youth commissioners, thank you so much, and council members and liaisons, thank you so much for being here, everyone. We really appreciate it. So with that, I think we can adjourn the meeting at 7:05 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone. It was lovely to see you all.
Great. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.